Welcome. You've got Counterculture
with
Lujan.
He hails from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
You are listening to
Counterculture
with
Aaron Lujan.
This be called the Lujan virus.
We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots.
Protecting your kids from the indoctrination of the media.
I call on every man and woman of goodwill all over America today to come back home. Come home, America.
Welcome. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. You are listening to Counterculture with Aaron Lujan. Thank you so much for joining me. This is where we're going to cover the most important news stories of the day. The stories that either get hidden, spun, or just not brought to your attention. And I'm here to do that and fill the void. My top news story for the day is out of the Washington Post. CDC removes statement on airborne virus transmission claiming website error. They recently removed added language saying that it was, quote, possible that coronavirus spreads via airborne transmission. This is their third revision, the CDC's third revision since May of 2020. And just as a quick legal disclaimer, I'm a little under the weather. No to the haters. I don't have cooties 19. I know you wish I probably did, but I don't believe I do. If I do, I'll beat it. But because you weren't wearing a mask. Well, it clearly wasn't because of airborne transmission. What I think the Center for Disease Control is engaged in is psychological trauma. I think that this happens when people rob banks. They mess with people's minds. And I think the CDC is doing that at a national scale. When do we stop trusting the CDC? They had, like I said, third revision since May. So if coronavirus can no longer be transmitted through the air, why are churches still shut down? Why are we still unallowed to have concerts and events? I would like an explanation. But the fact that we no longer trust these people, I think, should welcome some of these alternative viewpoints, like the frontline doctors that were censored, like the 500 German scientists and doctors in Germany that have counter-challenging science and opinion on this virus. Speaking of pandemic criticism, NBC News has an article out. China jails Z critic. Is it Chi? Z? I don't know. My Chinese is bad. I ate Chinese food last night, so I thought it would help me in the podcast. Apparently it's not working. China jails Chi critic to 18 years in prison for corruption after pandemic criticism. Ren Zhiqiang. I feel like if I yell, my Chinese is better. He's a former chairman of state-owned property developer Huayuan Group. Guys, I'm going to need a Chinese translator for Counterculture. If anybody speaks Chinese and can translate it into Chicano, which is what I speak because my English is not very good looking, I would really appreciate the support, guys. He's a former chairman of a development real estate company, Huayuan Group, and he has quite the following on the Weibo. I believe it's the Facebook of China. He had 37 million followers. He was considered the Donald Trump of China, if you will. And he's looking at 18 years in prison and a $618,000 fine for saying, quote, standing there was not an emperor showing off his new clothes, but a clown who had stripped off his clothes and insisted on being an emperor, referring to the president of the communist China, Xi. He joins dozens of journalists, labor and human rights activists who have been in prison. So I believe that the Democrats want to do that to us. God bless America. I would be in prison right now, you guys. I come up on here every single day criticizing the CDC, the WHO, former presidents, the sitting president at times. for this very issue amongst many other issues. And I'm going to go out today and enjoy the fresh Colorado air. And Mr. Xi Kwang is going to be looking at cement blocks for the next 18 years if he can last that long. He accused the president of suppressing information at the start of the pandemic in China. These were very benign accusations, in my opinion, saying you didn't reveal information in the beginning and you bungled the handling of the pandemic and you're a clown. That's 18 years in prison in China, you guys. We need to protect what we have here in the United States. I do not want to go to prison. I want to spend time raising my family. So it's the reason why I'm up here attempting to defend these First Amendment rights. I hope you join me. The Sun is reporting, speaking of China, doomsday bomb, China unveils terrifying Dongfeng 41 nuke that can strike U.S. in 30 minutes with 10 warheads at their 70th anniversary parade celebrating the founding of the communist China by Mao Zedong, the mass murderer. This nuke can strike the U.S. in 30 minutes with 10 warheads. It travels at 7,672 miles per hour, has a 9,300-mile range, and it packs 10 nukes per missile, can reach the United States in 30 minutes and hit any corner of the earth. What I find interesting about this is that if you go to the Sun's website, these pictures are amazing. The Chinese military, you guys, if you look at these photos like I did this morning, wow. China is becoming the world's military superpower. And it's the reason why I believe in Ronald Reagan's principle of peace through strength. Because you don't want strength with the communist Chinese, the people who jail people for calling you a clown. You want a free country that honors natural rights to have all the weapons. You want the good guys in charge, in other words. And let this be a warning to the world. You're going to hear it here on Counterculture. And pardon those who are watching the stream. I have like this, looks like Antifa's pointing lasers at my head. But it's actually God's good son. So pardon the ghetto podcast. I feel like I'm about to get blinded here in a minute. Now I'll know what it feels like to be a police officer in the once great state of Oregon. I continue. The President Xi, hashtag, shout out to all my Chicanos, Chichi. No force can shake the status of our great motherland, and no force can stop the progress of the Chinese people and the Chinese nation. When I read that, was he implying us, the United States? I don't know. Also, what I found interesting in the article brought to memory was that the communist China was founded 70 years ago by Mao Zedong after a civil war. So in other words, communist governments are birthed out of civil conflict, not an attack outside of their borders. Let this be a warning to the United States of America. Newsweek's got an article out. Shock poll, 45% of queer men supporting T-Money, also known as President Trump. H2O break. Hashtag confession time. I'm drinking way too much coffee and I need to calm down because I get off these podcasts like... Supposedly there's a gay app, not like gay as in like 90s, like when you called your homies gay in the 90s. I mean like homosexual community app called Hornet. They sampled 10,000 gay men. 45% of American gay men, as reported by Newsweek, said that they support the president. You know how many supported them? How many supported the president in 2016? 14%. So all those signs you see, gays for Trump, is for real though. Fox News, speaking of T-Money, DJT, President Trump to announce SCOTUS pick Saturday at the White House. Oh, in other breaking news, Babylon B, you can have this from me. Compliments of Counterculture. This would be my Babylon B article. Trump renames White House to Trump House and repaints it gold. That would be awesome. Just to troll the left. And then Trump will say it in a speech, and then the corporate media will actually fall for it and believe that Trump is actually going to do it. So we're going to get an announcement on Saturday. He's obviously moving very quick. He said that he's down to 5 picks. He's also looking at Judge Barbara Lagoa. Knowing team money, more than likely he's going to surprise us. It's not going to be the one that any names that we've heard thus far. It's going to be some trump card pick. That's just my random guess. But it will be a woman. My suggestion would be to pick a transgendered midget who's Muslim and black. A black transgendered Muslim midget who is asexual. That way we would have zero controversy and we would finally appease the left for their social justice goals. Finally, America would be vindicated. Hashtag midget, black, Muslim, transgendered lives matter. The Federalist Papers, liberal professors suggest former Vice President Joe Biden announced he'd appoint Big Mike, a.k.a. Michelle Obama, to SCOTUS to honor RBG. We honor dead Supreme Court justices by subjecting 330 million Americans to a lifetime appointment on the Supreme Court. That's our way of honoring dead people. No. You honor dead people by bringing some flowers to the cemetery. If you're from the Southwest Valley of Albuquerque, you bring some cerveza to the cemetery and you pour it on the ground for the dead homies. You don't appoint people to the Supreme Court for lifetime appointments to honor their deaths. But of course, everything is looked through the lens of race, and Joe Biden is no exception. We actually have a leftist tool in the Hill saying, referring to Big Mike, Michelle Obama, she brings insight as a black woman of dark complexion who struggled to be confident in a society that values whiteness and lightness. And forgive me for the video viewers, we're getting low network connection. I'm going to blame Big Mike. I'm looking forward to making sure there's a black woman on the Supreme Court. Oh, this is Joe Biden speaking, by the way. I'm looking forward to making sure there's a black woman on the Supreme Court to make sure we, in fact, get every representation. This low network connection is really distracting, you guys. I apologize. Let me see if I'm using... No? I don't know. Network... Okay, connection available. It's the NSA messing with me, guys. No, it's not. It's George Soros. No, guys, I just think it's good old-fashioned internet. Todd Starnes is reporting, Marxist Democrat mob gathers at GOP Senator Lindsey Graham's home, threatens to break down the front door. Strobe lights, bongos, and chants at 6 in the morning. I gotta love the neighbors over at good old Lindsey Graham's neighborhood. The shutdown DC and the sunrise movement were there. Apparently, no pun intended. They were there practically after sunrise. Banging them bongos, saying, "We gonna break down your front door, man, because we don't want you to uphold the Constitution and appoint a political appointee." Guys, this is terrorism, because terrorism, the definition of terrorism, is using violence for political aims. And this is a departure from the constitutional law and order that's completely spelled out in our Constitution. The president has a constitutional obligation to elect someone, and they do not like that. And so they're going to resort to strobe lights, bongos, and chants at 6 in the morning. Free Beacon, on the political bent of the Counterculture podcast, ABC town hall event presented anti-Trump activists as uncommitted voters. So more fake news. If you remember, ABC had a town hall event and supposedly had uncommitted voters there to, ask Trump the real questions. And of course, the leftist media, jumped on this as saying, when Trump couldn't handle it and he had to take the heat from, angry Americans and, had to face it. Guys, again, just complete fake news. The people that were there were literal activists. We have a Kutztown University professor, Alicia Black. I think she was the black woman. repeatedly identified herself at the ABC event as uncommitted. But if you look at her digital footprint, she's praised Vice President candidate Kamala Harris during the Democratic primary, saying she would, quote, be there volunteering for the California senator. She's called Trump an effing moron, pathetic, pig, swine, punk ass, loser in a slew of 2019 tweets. She's a self-described, quote, liberal Democrat. Yeah, I actually mistakenly told the truth, according to her Facebook profile, on the grounds that liberals are, quote, not motivated by money or power, but by humanity and the needs of the people. Yeah, I wonder if humanity and the needs of the people motivated you to call people effing morons, pathetics, pigs, swines, and punk asses, but the hypocrisy apparently goes past her. So that was your uncommitted voter number one. Uncommitted number two was Philadelphia pastor, air quotes, Carl Day. Carl Day tweeted that he's, quote, never once supported Trump and won't now in August, just weeks before the ABC town hall, and went on to say that Trump's Make America Great Again slogan refers to a time in which the N's, I'm assuming he's using the N-word, did what they were told in all industries, wouldn't have the audacity to try to enter a white establishment, and didn't talk back to the cops, and, quote, referred to Trump as a villain, calling him ridiculously arrogant and obnoxious, and said he, quote, ain't no Christian. Pastor Carl Day, you ain't no Christian, and you definitely ain't no English teacher, and you're definitely ain't no uncommitted voter. But that's the fake news that we got to deal with on a daily basis. Breitbart, speaking of election shenanigans, Mike Bloomberg raises $16 million to pay the fines of black Hispanic felons to vote in Florida. Good old Florida. Hashtag bath salts. Apparently 32,000 black and Hispanic felons are going to get to be able to vote now that their fines are getting paid, because Florida law requires that if you're in debt and you're a felon, you're not allowed to vote. They're doing Bloomberg's doing this through funding a program organized by Florida Rights Restoration Coalition to pay the fines, fees, and restitution costs of former prisoners who already registered to vote in Florida but barred by law from participating in the election because of those outstanding debts. Interestingly, not white people. So sorry, white felons, you're not gonna get helped out by Granddaddy Bloomberg this time. Which is interesting because now there's potentially a legal case for racial discrimination in this stunt that Bloomberg Moneybags is going to execute. NewsThud, a new outlet that I had never heard of but came across recently, is reporting an interesting article. Mittens Romney caught taking big money donations from George Soros organization. Oh yes, the Benedict Arnold, Mittens Romney, good old shiny fall guy. I believe he was a fall guy for Obama in 2012. He was paid to, basically take the fall. It's okay, guys. You're only warming us up for the silent majority to get behind MAGA train. Piss us off long enough, we'll stand up. Soros believes that he was no different between Obama, apparently. OpenSecrets.org revealed that Romney has accepted at least $17,500 from the Soros Fund Management. And, my question is, who knows how much money Mitt Romney actually took? Because we're dealing with a guy who broke the Bank of England, has been declared a financial terrorist by the Parliament of Malaysia, a man who was found guilty of insider trading in Europe. And there's now serious Republicans on the Senate who want to consider him an enemy of the state and pass legislation for that. So there you go, guys. Trust no one. Mitt Romney, total sellout, as if, obviously I know a lot of my listeners are aware of this, but I think it's worth repeating for the new ones. The Federalist, in a edition of Censorship, has an article out. Twitter labels Tucker Carlson's expose on George Soros as sensitive content. Oh yes. The Federalist reports that there was a clip that Tucker Carlson tweeted out of an edition of one of his shows where he essentially comments on the destruction and violence that's happening in these cities, and that Soros has directly funded candidates in those cities, election campaigns, who do not prosecute, who will drop charges for people who commit these specific crimes. And these are radical district attorneys who are not upholding their oath to the Constitution, but upholding their oath to the checks that are being signed by George Soros. And I wanted to read some of Twitter's media policy because I want you to make your own decision. I'm not here to convince you of my way of thinking. I'm here to present the information and you make a decision for yourself. So Twitter's media policy states, quote, "You may not post media that is excessively gory or share violent or adult content within live video or in profile header or list banner images, and that, quote, media depicting sexual violence and or assault is also not permitted." So going back to my question, what is it about the tweet, and watch it yourself on the Federalist, that violates these Twitter media policies? I don't see anything sexually violent. I didn't see anything gory. I didn't see any of that. What I did see was a connection being made between the district attorneys who were financed by George Soros and the fact that these activists, these rioters, are not being held accountable for their crimes. And that would fall perfectly into the Communist Manifesto. And Tucker Carlson's got the huevos to go up in front of millions of people every night and expose it on a network who's apparently hostile. I got a really good question that I wish someone will answer, and I really genuinely don't know the answer to this question. How the hell is Tucker Carlson still on television, you guys? I mean, this dude is fire. Like, wow, he is the Trump of media. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's great that he's on television, and part of the reason why I come up here every day is I am inspired, and I feel like he's blazing the trail for the little guys like me to, you know, kind of follow his lead, because this guy must be under tremendous pressure. I'm sure he's got personal security detail. Daily Caller's got an article out. Up to 52 million new immigrants could settle in the U.S. under the Biden-Harris plan, analysis finds. The Federation for American Immigration Reform Analysis has come up with a report that's exposed that the 52 million new immigrants could settle, and that it would also eliminate detention for many illegal border crossers. It would halt border wall construction, and a Biden-Harris administration, or shall I say a Harris-Biden administration, will scale back deportation, would increase taxpayer-funded costs of services and benefits for illegals to more than $200 billion annually, and which would be a 50% increase according to their reporting. A Biden administration would hand over 11 million illegals citizenship, which of course would be remove all the deterrence and would be bait for more illegals to come across. And of course, you would reinstate DACA. It would end workplace raids and all of this immigration chaos. This is a warning. We cannot let these depraved people into the White House. That would be the end. The Roman Empire ended on a couple of points. One of them was a loss of their national borders. The barbarians, which was a tribe outside of the Roman Empire, where we get the phrase "barbarians at the gates," was one of the reasons historians point to the fall of Rome. They lost control of their borders, and we're following a historical blueprint right before our eyes. The wall, I will repent. I thought it wasn't going to work. It is working. Immigration is down. Continuing, in some really juicy breaking news, and this is my last story on politics, the Gateway Pundit has an article out breaking: Burisma investigation to be released within 24 hours, finds Biden family caught guilty likely criminal actions. So bear with me, you guys. I have a full-time job. I'm a dad, and I try to keep this information in my brain, so I'm going to butcher it a little bit. If you want me to do this for a living, go to prepsave.com and get prepped for the coming chaos. And if you do that enough, I can focus on this more. Biden if you remember, son Hunter Biden was caught in a scandal where he was given a cushy job with the Ukrainian natural gas company. I think he was being paid $40,000 a month, and that was in clear violation of some acts that are codified in U.S. law. And of course, because he's on the blue team, he doesn't get in trouble for it. And so Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, Creepy Joe, went to Ukraine and basically pressured the head of Ukraine to fire and to end the investigation into his son. The report is expected to reveal that Biden was operating out of a conflict of interest, that he was involved in a $7 million bribe, and that there was a pressure campaign within the U.S. State Department invoking the Biden's name to make the Burisma corruption go away. In addition, there also appears to be suspicious financial transactions from the Bidens that were flagged by the U.S. Treasury Department. So we have high-level crimes being lodged at Joe Biden within the next 24 hours. Could you imagine if had this been the other way around? Trump's campaign would be derailed. Trump would be done. This will not happen to Joe Biden. He will get the protection of the corporate media. If you read Gateway Pundit or if you listen to Counterculture, at least you're aware of the fact that we have widespread, ridiculous corruption taking place on behalf of the Bidens, breaking laws, bribing foreign heads of state. It goes on and on and on. Incredible, right, guys? Switching gears out of politics into some better news. Epic Times, 35 children rescued across northern Ohio in Operation Safety Net. Let's keep it coming. I'm going to just go on a little quick rant. I think the reason why Trump is hated so much is because he's, with all of his sins and his shortcomings and his flabbergastations, he's going after the human traffickers. He's going after the pedophiles. He's touching on some buttons that the elite, the people who control the information that's going into your phone every day and into your ears, the George Stephanopoulos, the Anderson Coopers, the Rachel Maddows, they all work for pedophiles and human traffickers, you guys. These people do not want to get caught. I'm opposed to human trafficking. I'm opposed to pedophiles. I thought I was opposed to capital punishment, but man, it sure looks tempting when you think about children rapists, doesn't it? Ooh. So, yeah, you've woken up the bear, and this whole Q movement is about that. And a lot of these glitterbug pastors of these mega churches who are losing control of their churches now, it's because the sheep have woken up to the true shepherd, and they're hating evil, and they're actually doing something about it. And there's not enough, and I'm speaking to the pastors now, there's not enough 501c3 labels, and there's not enough funding from the federal government that's going to keep your church from speaking out against these horrors. And the silent majority is starting to wake up and is starting to speak out, and we're not going to let children get human trafficked. I'm dead serious. This isn't going to happen anymore. This is coming to an end. We're going to stop this. And thank you, President Trump. Thank you, the U.S. Marshals. Thank the U.S. Marshals Service. We're seeing more of this happen. And the more they attack Trump, the more children are getting rescued. I remember, I think this was in 2017, when there was over 100 people that were arrested in L.A. County for child human trafficking. Was literally at the same time at the height of all of the attacks about how Trump is a racist and all this stuff. This is my own personal conspiracy theory. And that is a conspiracy theory because I don't have evidence. It's just my conspiratorial opinion that the hatred for the president is because the people who attack him work for pedophiles and human traffickers. Continuing, Breitbart's got an article out. Seattle hires convicted pimp as street czar to consult on police reform. In another edition of Pimpin' Ain't Easy, a man who had led violent protests in Seattle, Washington, and who was convicted of running a prostitution operation, including pimping underage girls, now has an office in the city's municipal building and a paycheck of $150,000 a year to act as a street czar to advise on reforming the police. Andre Taylor is the man in question, and I just want to read some of his quotes because he defends himself, of course, through the lens of race. Well, why not, right? It works. And you get the backing of the corporate media and the district attorney's office and the mayor if you just say, oh, it's because my skin's black, that's why they don't like me. No. You're a black criminal. And in fact, better than that, you're just a criminal who was caught soliciting underage women. Durkin paid $100,000 at another point in time to Mr. Taylor for a speaking series. And she defended herself by saying, we were just working with existing working partnerships. And I want to read Mr. Taylor's defense of being appointed a street czar because it's very interesting. He told this to Seattle-based KOMO News. I'm going to do my best pimp voice. I know the term street czar is quite provocative. Black people are not normally paid for positions nor their organizations, but white people with the same positions are paid. And this is an ongoing problem not only here but all over this country. White people have been paid for some of the same stuff and nobody has ever said anything about it. But the moment a black man demands respect and you value the work and you want to use my credibility, that should have some value to it. He's also talking about how I was born from the streets. I came out of the deep darkness, had children with some of the women who were with me. We decided we were going to be in this subculture like the mafia, whether you liked it or not. We knew you considered us the waste of the world from the beginning. We didn't care what you thought about us, just like I don't care what you think about me now. Well, I'm glad, Mr. Taylor, you don't care what I think about you. But I think there's my listeners who care what I think about you. I think you're a criminal. I think you're disgusting. And I think that the people of Seattle should be at the door of Mayor Durkin's office demanding that this man have his $150,000 salary ended and this man should be prosecuted for his crimes. That's what I think. Sorry, guys. I get a little upset on here on Counterculture, but I'm going to get happy because I am going to end with good news, I promise. Daily Caller's got an article out. Public schools across the country promote Black Lives Matter organized protests. Public schools across America have endorsed the Black Lives Matter movement. Buffalo Public Schools incorporated BLM into its elementary school curriculum. Some public elementary schools organized their own Black Lives Matter protest and encouraged students to attend. And they want to implement the Black Lives Matter guiding principles, one of them known as, quote, Black Villages. And this idea of Black Villages is the destruction of the traditional nuclear family and allowing the community to raise the children. You know what that reminds me of? Marxism, communism, because going back to the Communist Manifesto, that's one of their main planks. Destroying the nuclear family, getting rid of mom and dad in the home and having the children raised by the community. No, it's not going to be the community. It's going to be communist, air quotes, teachers and militarized police in black boots. And we have already know that the BLM movement is a Marxist organization. It's an admitted one. And there you go. We have a cultural Marxist revolution taking place across the public schools. This is the reason why I homeschool my children. Classical conversations is the curriculum that we use. Let God be known is the center of the curriculum. And no one's going to take that away from us. Hashtag 2A. The Los Angeles union teachers, or the union teachers of Los Angeles, supported disbanding the Los Angeles School Police Department if they wouldn't implement these cultural Marxist garbage. The president, Cecily Marat Cruz, of course, a hyphenated Hispanic woman married to a white dude who hates white guys, but This is what we're dealing with. I've been around these LA teacher liberals. They're quite something, you guys. Quote, "We're talking about racism as a social construct, systemic and institutional racism, and wrapped on top is white supremacist culture, which is the dominant culture." Sorry, Miss Marat Cruz, I don't have enough Berkeley degrees to understand what you just said. It's real simple. Family's important. Stop trying to poison the minds of children. That's it. Moving along, The Federalist. Census report shows how jaw-dropping Trump's economy was before shutdowns. Shows what we achieve given the right opportunity. Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to read some of these statistics real quick since we're at 35 minutes. Again, I cannot keep it under 30. I'm going to try, you guys. Forgive me. The economy was roaring before the artificial shutdown of COVID-19. Real median income for American households increased 6.8% in 2019, a jump of almost $4,400. The poverty rate also declined in 2019 for the 5th consecutive year. Poverty level fell to its lowest rate, 10.5%, since the federal government started keeping records in 1959. Real earnings for full-time year-round workers increased by 2.1% for men and 3% for women, and that's adjusted for inflation. The total number of workers with earnings increased by $2.2 million, and the number of full-time year-round workers increased by 1.2 million. That means men with integrity, working hard, could provide for their families without a government handout. Good stuff. Median incomes for Black and Hispanic households rose at a faster rate than incomes for households led by non-Hispanic whites. Not that that's good that it went faster than whites, but it dispels this myth that, the economy is racist or something, whatever that means. Well, it apparently doesn't mean anything, because if you look at the United States Census numbers, they are increasing, or did increase before the COVID-19 came about. 7.9% for Black, 7.1% for Hispanics. Median incomes for foreign-born workers grew at a greater rate than those for native-born Americans. 8.5% of foreign-born workers started making those Benjamins. Median incomes for women, hashtag unequal pay or whatever their garbage is. Median incomes for women grew more than 3 times as fast as incomes for men. 7.8% increase in female median income. The poverty rates for Blacks and Hispanics fell to an all-time low. Now, I'm going to be objective and say this isn't all because of Trump. But what I will say is that Trump created an environment through deregulation, through a reformation of the tax policies and a simplification of the tax codes, and just unleashed the power that bubbles underneath the American entrepreneur, the American worker. We are badasses, you guys. We've always been badass. We have built the greatest things the world has ever seen, most of it. Like, we are the greatest country in the world. I believe that. And this just proves that if you give us, we're not looking for a government handout. If you just give us an opportunity, I mean, speaking personally, if you just stop taxing me and allow my business to not have to go through regulation, if my clients aren't buried with all of this bureaucracy and regulation, I would be in Hawaii right now with my family watching them poolside with a beer in my left hand. But instead I have to work twice as hard because of all of this bureaucracy and all of these taxes. Just unleash the American entrepreneur, unleash the worker. We won't let you down. The Daily Caller annual Emmy Awards pulls in historic low rating with virtual show due to pandemic. Of course, the culture's in decline. The paradigm is shifting. The blessing in disguise is that nobody cares about your award shows anymore. Nobody cares about Entertainment Tonight and Variety and all of your mind programming trash. The Great Awakening is among us. We no longer fall for your bread and circus. We are awake. We are vigilant. We are turning to God. We, because of your shutdowns, we've turned towards our families. We're working remotely now. We know it's important. The restaurants and the bars and the clubs shut down. We know it's important now. And we are shutting you off now. So this is a good news. I think it's really good news. Scoring 13%, the Emmys, in total viewership compared to the year prior. Down 29% in the key demographic compared to the previous year. Well, of course, if you saw Jimmy getting cucked by that black supremacist, that was one of the most disgusting things I'd ever seen. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to my Facebook. I got a video up there of Jimmy, what's his face? Yeah, I'm actually proud of the fact that I don't even remember these people's names. The host of the Emmys, the puppet, was shamed for the color of his skin. Repeat after me, Jimmy. Black lives matter. No, Jimmy, say it louder. I mean, the look on Jimmy's face, I was embarrassed for this man. I mean, so sad. But, I mean, he chose it, right? He sold his soul to sit at the table. He gets to host the Emmys and, be around all of these empty, mindless celebrities all the time. God, it must be a miserable life. While convincing you that that's the life. Rounding us out with the Western Journal, Twitter users wonder if Pelosi just suffered cognitive failure during a live TV interview.
Voting the day that we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take it.
Like the mind programming got interrupted or something. So there you go. Ending with good news. The Daily Mail. Archaeologists uncovered 27 ancient wooden coffins buried for 2,500 years in Egypt, in largest discovery of its kind. In another edition of Human Ingenuity, archaeologists discovered 13 earlier this month and have found since 14 more. These were wooden sarcophages that had been buried for 2,500 years. The discovery was made in the ancient Saqqara necropolis south of Cairo, Egypt. Imagine being an archaeologist right now. One, you get to be underground looking at 2,500-year-old artifacts, not having to hear counterculture and all of the craziness that's going on in the world, not having to see George Stephanopoulos. I did hear, though, that when they opened up one of the coffins, one of the pharaohs had a MAGA hat. No, he didn't, actually. They haven't opened up anything yet. But that would be pretty cool. And just another great feat in archaeology, and just showing you that discovery never ends. And the child wonder of this world should remain intact, because this world is a beautiful place. It is an amazing place. It's filled with hope. Goodness has already won. The king is alive. There is going to be a good ending to all of this, you guys. We just need to bear and be kind to one another in the meantime, and continue to be bold, to be brave, and to pursue our callings and to have fun while doing it. You guys, thank you for listening. This was episode 63 of Counterculture. I don't remember what the name of the podcast was, but you can read it because I forgot to write it down. Hashtag pedo podcast. Hashtag ghetto podcast. Episode 63, the top news for September 23rd, 2020. Thank you for watching. Take care.